We talked about at the end of last week, Marjorie Taylor Greene's ultimatum on funding the government. She's saying she's not going to agree to fund the government unless President Joe Biden has an impeachment inquiry launched into him by House Republicans. And so as a condition of her going along with a necessary part of the functioning of our government, she is requiring a very partisan political attack against President Biden. The impeachment inquiry would be looking into the allegations they've been unable to substantiate for some time now that President Joe Biden was bribed. And they, like I said, have been investigating for months and months. And years before that, even Lev Parnas, the stooge of Giuliani, tried to prove these things and now is turning around and saying, okay, this is a complete witch hunt. It's a wild goose chase. You're not going to find any evidence. But they insist there's something to it. And thus, Marjorie Greene is making that a condition of her voting for funding the government. And it's ridiculous, but we're used to it. Adam Schiff responded to Marjorie Greene's demand on this. He, of course, is the Democratic congressman and candidate for Senate in California. And I'll show you this. He nicely breaks down the absurdity. But first, in case you missed a segment on Friday or Saturday, whenever it was uploaded, here was what she had to say. I've already decided I will not vote to fund the government unless we have passed an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden. I will not fund the government because I will not fund the weaponized part of the government. I'm not going to fund the Biden regime's weaponized government, so there should be no funding for Jack Smith, special counsel. We had to fire David Weiss, who was protecting Hunter Biden on a special counsel, and we have to rein in the FBI. I will not vote for money to go towards those things. I will not vote for a continued resolution that funds mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and COVID because that is over. Joe Biden even declared that it's over, and last time I read line in the sand has always been I will not vote to fund a war in Ukraine. We have to have peace, and of course, allowing Russia to be victorious in their endeavor is not in the interest of peace, but she says otherwise. So I will be happy to work with all my colleagues. I will work with the Speaker of the House. I will work with everyone, but I will not fund those things. And I thought it was most important for me to tell you all first because I work for you and that's what we have to do. So that being said, here's what Adam Schiff had to say in response.
Now, shutting the government down has implications on the public broadly. What is your reaction to her tying a government shutdown to an impeachment inquiry?
Well, it just shows the extreme lengths they'll go to carry water for Donald Trump. They'll shut down the government. They'll do whatever they can to initiate an impeachment of Joe Biden. And part of the motivation here is, of course, to distract from Donald Trump's multiple indictments. Part of it is to somehow try to dilute the stain of Trump's impeachments. But the common denominator is this just unswerving, undeniable willingness to debase themselves in the service of Donald Trump. I think that many of them would like to shut down the government anyway. This will just give them further leverage to try to shut down the government. Having failed to default on the nation's credit, many see this as the next demonstration of their commitment to God knows what. So I fear that we're on a path to government shutdown because there are enough members of the Republican conference who want it, and Kevin McCarthy will do whatever it takes to remain Speaker one more day or one more week. That's his sole motivation.
And of course, he's exactly right. It's in service of Donald Trump's campaign. It's in service of the base's ambition to see President Biden gone after. And it's in service of this ideology that says the government can't really solve problems, so why do we care that much if it shuts down because of a lack of funding? And that's one of the things we talked about at the end of last week is that this kind of conservative, anti-government, anti-social program stance creates a situation where lawmakers within the GOP are incentivized to further, if you want to use the terminology, break the government, because a broken government plays into the story they tell of the government being ineffective at solving any problems. And it's not that the government's effective at solving all problems, obviously not, but where it can be effective, it should be implemented through good policies, such as all these different ones that have now become very popular: Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, etc., etc. And so if you base a lot of your political ideology on, no, none of that can work, all these progressive programs that attempt to uplift people who need uplifting and support people where they need to be supported, those are all bad, and the government only makes things worse. And in every situation, it shouldn't be implemented, then of course it's going to make sense for you to underfund certain programs, for you to be totally fine with not doing the necessary process of funding the government to allow it to continue to function. And a government shutdown is actually perfectly great in your mind. And a few Republican lawmakers have said that explicitly. You know, a shutdown wouldn't be so bad because the government doesn't do good things anyways most of the time. Which of course is ridiculous because so many people rely on necessary programs. And so that's not accurate, but it is the ideology. And then that is being combined with kind of your typical, why work hard to make sure the government can work effectively? Because if it doesn't, that actually supports our story better, our narrative better. But that's being combined with the desperate attempt to hurt Biden politically from Marjorie Greene to kind of your complete MAGA Republican package there, where now she knows there's a good chance it's not going to work. She's not going to get everything she wants. But her and some of the other people within the hardcore MAGA part of the GOP can demand things like this. And then maybe we get a government shutdown and they get to hurt Biden or try to hurt Biden politically. And in their mind, that works out just fine. Meantime, people are being harmed because of it. Meantime, people aren't receiving the support and the service from the government that they need. So we'll see if this ends up leading to a government shutdown. We'll see how many Republicans go along with this or other attempts to make absurd conditions to their support for funding the government. But very emblematic of the modern, especially MAGA Republican Party. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.